Hi, welcome to the ASU Print and Imaging Lab. You are now in the bindery department where we do all kinds of cool things like saddle stitching is what I'm going to show you now. We have a semi-automatic stitcher which we put the sheets, come in individually, we collate them, we put them in the side and then it actually stitches, but we also have a manual stitcher which every bindery has, and this allows you to put a staple, and the reason why it's called a saddle stitch is because you put it on a saddle and you throw a staple in it on two sides, and that allows you to do a saddle stitch book. So you actually have, this is a 8-page signature, and it gives you a saddle stitch, stitches in the center, and then we'll actually take this to the cutter and do a face trim on it, and that'll be done. Okay, so now we're at the cutter. It's a Polar cutter. It's Polar 78 ED, cuts up to 30 inches wide, or wide stacks, 4.5 inches thick, or 4.5 inches thick high, and we can get up to about 45 cuts a minute. So we have this saddle stitch book, and we're going to go ahead and do a face trim on it right now. So it's totally digitalized. We can put in the numbers of where we want to go to. This one is actually at 8.5 by 11, so we're going to put it 8.5, and then the back gauge is going to move up, and then it'll allow us to go ahead and didn't put in the right number, so let's try that again. 8.5. And of course it's automatic and semi-automatic, so it's currently on automatic, so that's why it kept moving. So I'm going to turn the automatic off and go to 8.5. And on this one, it allows us to make minor adjustments. So this button here allows us to make minor adjustments forward or backwards. And we made that minor adjustments, and we're going to make the trim. And it's a guillotine cut, so it goes down, and that gives us our final trim. So some of the features on this Polar cutter are how much pressure we can put on it. We can go anywhere from 100 pounds to basically almost a ton and a half worth of weight. So that's the pressure. So when we push this down, it actually puts down that pressure. So that will be on the stack that we're cutting at any time. And what we'll do is that will hold it in a position. So if I pull on that, I can't pull it out because of the pressure. There's also different safety mechanisms, which are lasers that go through here. So if I go to use 2 fingers to actually put the blade down, the blade will come down. But if I get something in that, let's say I have a stack of papers within that laser, and I push the 2 fingers in here to push the buttons, it doesn't allow me to go down. So there's safety features involved on this to where I can't stick my hands in here. If somebody else is helping me out and they put their hands, or my belly gets into that area, it's not going to cut. So it's actually a very safe machine, but when you're all clear and in a safe zone and everything's moved out of the way, we can put the pressure down and actually make the cut. And then we have a cut. So a parent sheet, which is a bigger size sheet, allows us to, the air table on here allows us to move around the paper. So these are already been trimmed down, but when we turn on the air, there's little beads here. And if we turn on the air, it'll actually allow us to move this bigger sheet around. The air comes up and almost uses it like a sled to where we can move and make the cuts that we need to make. So the air table is really, really convenient when you're using large sheets, as well as smaller sheets. So if we have several stacks of these sheets coming in and out, we can move these around no problem. If I turn the air off, then it's hard to move around and the stacks don't want to move. I'll show you one more time. So here, I actually move around, turn it off, doesn't want to move. And the larger the sheet you buy, the less expensive the paper is. And that allows us to save on print as well. So this is the Auto Creaser Pro 33. It allows us to basically put a score into the sheet. So you can actually score the sheet so it folds. This is used pretty much for digital presses because it's a stomp score. So it actually has a scoring mechanism in here that will actually come down to the sheet and score the sheet and the fibers straight down on it. Instead, normally you'd have a wheel that would go across it. And it's just for digital printing, it's probably one of the best ways that you can score digital print. So on this particular machine, I can do anywhere from the minimum size is 8.2 by 5.5. The maximum sheet size is 27.5 by 12.9. There's also an option to be able to have a perforation going through here as well. But basically, it's a digital front end. It allows us to put in what kind of fold we're going to do, either a Z fold, a 3-panel fold, a gate fold, a half fold. Lots of different folds you can do on this machine. The other thing that allows you to do is rate the speed that it goes or how fast it will go through the machine, and it scores very fast. So I'm going to turn the machine on. We have 2 on buttons as well as a safety switch here as well. You can adjust it to any size here, and then it's actually air fed, bottom fed from the bottom. And we'll turn this on and watch a few go through. And so that just went through the machine, and it allows us to have a nice score on there. And then we can fold that, and what's going to happen with these are actually going to get made into a calendar. So we'll punch it across the top, and we'll actually make a calendar that looks something like this for an actual calendar. I don't know if you can see that. And I'll show you that process here in a second. So the Auto Pro Fold actually attaches to the Auto Creaser Pro 33. And normally what happens is we put those 2 machines together, and it'll actually go from one to the other and go ahead and fold the sheet. But we're going to separate the 2 for now. Same thing with this machine. It's a digital screen on the front. We can put in the information that we need. In this case, this is going to get folded to 6.5. So we're actually going to put this through the folder at 6.5 inches. Can do just about any score from, fold from tri-fold, saddle stitch. We're going to do a half fold right now on this piece. It also has gauges on it that allows it to fluctuate the pressure of how much pressure it's going to take to actually make the fold depending on what it is. We actually do a mic and measure the thickness of the sheet, so it allows us to be able to get the right pressure on the fold when we actually make that fold. There's also a safety button on here that will stop it as well. You just hit the red button and it stops everything, and then a power feature as well. Inside here there are 3 rollers that allow you to, basically a kind of a stick that comes up that pushes the sheet up, so it'll actually come up and push its sheet up into the rollers, whichever way it's folding. So if it's going down, it'll push down. If it goes up, it'll push up. And that's inside of this area right in here. And so we're going to start it up and give it a try, and we'll watch this one get folded. So normally it's coming off of here and going into the machine. We're just going to put that up there and let it go through. And then it actually will bring it over here, and then we have our folded piece. So it made that fold pretty good. So this is the challenge single hole drill, and what this allows us to do is put actually a hole into the paper. With many different size options, we have a larger size, 1/4 inch, 1/8 of an inch, and then the standard 1/4 inch is actually in the machine now. There's also a back guide on the back side of it, and then also a little measurement tool that will allow you to actually stop wherever you need to, depending on what you're drilling. So a little difference between the plastic coil or the wire. That's the punch there. That's a 2-to-1 die versus a 3-to-1 die, and that's on a totally different machine. This actually just gives you a round hole, so you can see the difference between the 2. Basically, it's a pretty basic machine. You turn it on. There's a foot pedal on the bottom, and basically you just punch it into the sheet, whatever you're trimming. You line it up to the back guide, and then it allows you to have the hole there. We're going to make a slight adjustment. There's a slight adjustment on the back side if we wanted to go deeper into the sheet, and this will allow us to go deeper into the stack. We'll try that. And I went the wrong way. and that goes into there. And there's also a wood block. So you're wondering, how does it go through the sheet without cutting anything else? There's actually a block that goes in there that the actual blade will come down in, cut the sheet, go through the paper, and into the wood block, and that way it doesn't cut anything else. But that's how you're able to get through a large stack of sheets with a single hole. So a lot of the 3-hole punches, that's where this is done as well. And that's the challenge, single hole punch. Next piece of equipment I'm going to show you is the challenge SMC single round cornering machine. And currently we have a 1/4-inch blade inside of it. Basically what it does is it allows you to make a round corner on all 4 corners in larger stacks. So I have a large stack here. We're going to cut all 4 of these corners, and I'll show you how quickly it is to accomplish that. First thing we want to do is turn on the machine on the on switch. The other basic thing is there's a sensor here, a green sensor, that won't allow us to put our fingers in there. If our finger's in there, it won't allow it to come down if it doesn't see anything in there. There's also a guard here. And then we'll throw these in here and give them a good round cornering. So this helps us to make sure that it's jogged in all the way. And we'll go ahead and do all 4 corners of this. I'll show you the 2 sides right now. We'll do 2 more sides. And again, a very razor sharp blade. This is a 1/4-inch that we're doing right now. We can do as small as business cards and as large as, basically as large as we can get in the machine. And that allows us to do a round corner. So you can do all 4 corners. Playing cards are really good on this. Business cards are good. Flyers that you want round cornered. Even pamphlets could be round cornered on 2 edges to just give it a different look and a different feel. In this area of the print lab, we're actually doing some post-production work. So we're actually doing a calendar that allows us to do a coil-bound book. And this is a 3-to-1. So basically it's with every 3 holes in an inch. That's the ratio, so 3-to-1 ratio. And that's used for plastic coil calendars. And in the end product, it's going to end up looking like this. And I think we showed that to you earlier. But it punches a hole, and then we actually put a plastic coil in there, and then it's trimmed on 2 sides. And the one that we scored earlier is the back side of this calendar. So you can flip that over and have a whole year's worth of calendar there. And so this is a production part that's happening right now. We also have a shrink wrapper, so in the end we'll actually shrink wrap it before we ship it, and that keeps it from moving around in a box or scraping up in a box in the shipping process. So some really post-production processes. So in this area of the lab is actually our original Heidelberg press. It's from the 1950s, and we still actually use it for die cutting purposes. A little bit of the history is we were able to, back in the day, actually create lead type and have that lead type put in letters. As you can see there, there's actually melted down, and those had to be put in reverse if you were going to spell something out, so you actually had to spell it out. The ASU up on the top there, you can see that it's ASU or USA, spelled backwards. And then it also uses furniture, and that furniture is used to be able to put the spacing in the gaps depending on what you're actually setting up. So in this case I have a jig set up with a die, and it's a small die. It actually is for a name badge punch out, but you can see the different uses of the furniture. So you've got different sizes of the furniture here to hold it in, smaller furniture as you get closer, and then even a thin one right there to be able to fill in that gap. And then what you do is you use a key to tighten that up, and that tightens it all together in order to put it in the platen inside the press, and I'm going to show you that here in a second. Several different dies. So the dies are made up of wood dies. This happens to be a Sparky die. So you can see his 2 eyeballs there, his horns here, and then this gap allows you to, basically it allows it not to, there's a blade in there, a very sharp blade inside of there. So if you're going to cut something out, it's a blade. If you're going to score it, it would be a dull blade, not a sharp blade. And then it would actually, the pressure would actually go onto the sheet and create the impression, and it allows you to have the impression of the cutout. So that actually would cut right out of there. And with every impression, you're going to be cutting those out. And so that's actually what it ends up looking like for the Sparky die. So in this case, this is the only safety feature on this press from the 1950s. So very important that when it's up you cannot run the machine. When it's down, it's runnable. And we're actually going to show you how this windmill Heidelberg press works. So what I'm going to do is actually turn it on. It's going to get noisy here. You have over here a feeder and an exit tray from here. You have two grippers. You have a gripper at the top and then another gripper at the bottom. And then the platen is already in the press right now. So I'm going to slow it down. So we have a speed control here that allows us to slow the press down. That's the speed control. And then we're actually going to start this up and you'll see that platen move. And I'm going to try to move it very slowly here. And you can see the blade come up and then it would grip here and then take the piece in to the platen. The platen comes up and actually pushes the sheet in and then it releases it over here. It releases it in here and then it starts the process all over again. So we currently have a 2-up die that's cutting these honor stickers here, and we'll throw those in the press and give those a whirl. See if we can get those to come through here. We basically can set up the press to be able to grab the gripper. So there's a back gauge here and then the gripper here. And then we'll see if we can pick this up, see if it'll go on for us. So we can grab that sheet, which it's not grabbing at the moment. So we'll make a few adjustments here. And basically these adjustments are whether it's for thick paper or thin paper. There's different adjustments on this side, and it allows how far this bar comes down. There's all kinds of little adjustments that we can make in order for it to pick up the sheet, and then it puts it down on the sheet, and you can hear it hitting that die, and it allows us to make that die cut piece. So we punch those out, and that's what gives us the die for die cutting, and that's how die cutting works. This also is used for prints, so we would ink this up. This currently isn't used for print right now, but we would ink these heads up. Platen would come down and actually put ink over the top of the letter, and then we'd place the paper here, and it's the same concept. It's going in, it's actually hitting against that plate or that piece and allowing the ink to stick to the paper. So a lot of cool stuff. A lot of the people are putting these in garages and rebuying these and refurbishing them and doing some really unique and cool stuff and design-wise out of their garages now.